John, look good. This is her as chair. We gotta look sharp.
Limited time only.
Is,
Okay, shall we begin?
yeah.
So this is the budget meeting for a variety of things. Recreation Department, Historic Preservation, Historical Society, Arbor Commission, and Administrative.
It's like other outside groups that don't fall into like
Yeah.
social services or recreation. Yep.
Great.
All right, so start with the Historic Preservation Commission.
Voting. So we have some new, more concise handouts.
Thank you.
I'll take two.
Oh, actually, I would take one to put in Michelle's piles also.
There you are, young lady.
Good evening. I am Jennifer Sala. I am the Vice Chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. So this year, we're asking for a little bit more because we've identified, going through the comprehensive plan process, that my conversations with the state, that Ellsworth hasn't done really any archaeological work to date. There's been a couple of sites mostly related to the dams. And so that's something that we would really like to get onto, and of course with the grant processes and all that stuff, there are some expectations. One being that it could take us a while to get approved for a grant and then to actually receive the funds and get the work going. But also that we would have matching funds. And so an archaeological test pit generally runs about $10,000. So we're expecting that for some grants, we may be expected to have up to 50% of that. And so we are asking for $5,000 in matching funds. And then we also have been working on karma surveys. So we have that in there as well. We're planning to do some more of those based on some mailers that we're sending out to engage with historic property owners with buildings that are 75 years or older. Looking back through the commission's records, we've identified that anytime there has been an engagement of the community regarding any historic houses, people actually do tend to get interested and they get excited about it. So we've seen like these influxes like in the 80s where they did some of this engagement, and there were like 16 buildings that ended up being registered with the commission. And so we're hoping that we can get some more engagement that way if we do another series of these like community engagement mailers. So that will just help us basically to do our job. And we identified the first company that we used, it would have been a little bit more expensive. We weren't as happy with them and what they provided. So we found another company that does it for cheaper. We enjoyed working with them more, and we also were happier with what they provided for a product. So that's where this number comes from. I think last year it was $5,000 that we asked for that. And this should be about the same number of properties. Any questions?
Can you say a little bit more about what the archaeological survey, what that looks like?
Yeah, so they sent somebody out who understands architecture, and they can analyze a building and they can identify whether it's like the different types of styles that are included. Like, so if it's like a Gothic revival or colonial or you know, all the different types of styles. And then they also are sometimes able to recognize patterns in buildings and identify who the architect may have been that way. So there's like Francis Fassett that did the old jail and a bunch of other places all over the state. And he's very well known. And so they're able to kind of determine if was a very expensive house to build or if it's what they call like vernacular, which is just kind of like a basic building, and that determines its significance as far as like what it contributes to the architectural character of the community, and then it puts it in a database for the DOT. And this also is like a preliminary survey to establish if it would qualify for the National Register.
Actually, sorry, I meant the first,
Oh.
the archaeological.
Oh, the archaeological survey, okay. Yeah, so I guess it would depend on what kind of grant we're going after. So there are, of course, a lot of grants that would apply to prehistoric sites that would tell us more about Abenaki settlements, and there is like, very kind of embarrassingly little that's known about the actual settlements of Ellsworth. Because of, like I said, we really just haven't done a whole lot of archaeological work, and unfortunately, those oral traditions are largely lost. So we would probably want to do somewhere that we could establish archaeological evidence of prehistoric cultures. So that would be really important to us. And of course, that would probably be somewhere along the river. But then there are also other grants that may apply more to, like I saw some that were for like industrial sites or whatever. And those we definitely would be interested in because, again, all along the river we had industrial sites. So it really would depend on the grant what site we would try to do. We would work with the property owners, and it'd probably be more amenable, given the fact that they don't have to pay for it, to let us use those sites. So, like at the top of my list actually would be the site behind the library where the Frenchman's Bay Conservancy has their trail. Because, and I talked to the state about this, when they put that in, they really should have contacted an archaeologist and had an archaeologist go out there. And so where it has been kind of tampered with, I would like to get somebody out there sooner than later. And it's also vulnerable, like recently it was really flooded, where you can actually walk down the trail, the water was up over the paths. So that's somewhere that it's important for us to get a lay of. If you walk down there, once you've seen it, you won't unsee it, but there are actually the foundations of buildings down along that were the original mill sites that were owned by John Black, Benjamin Milliken, some of those very early Ellsworth people, so, yeah. And that also would have been a site with the salmon spawning and the alewives and all that, that would have also been a prehistoric site as well. My neighbor, I actually lived down there, my neighbor found a stone axe head in her yard.
A stone what?
Axe head.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Yeah. Anything else?
So I have a couple of questions, and I guess disclaimer, I am the council representative on the commission and have made it to a couple of meetings so far, but don't know everything. On your $4,000, when I see DOT, I think Department of Transportation. That is?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so if they decide they want to widen a roadway or something, they look and they're like, oh, well, there's kind of a lot of valuable buildings there, so we might reconsider other options. Yeah.
Okay. And then the second one I'd mentioned in an earlier conversation, trying to get a sense, you received in this fiscal year $6,300, you spent down $4,500. What are your plans for the remaining funds?
So now that the ground has thawed, again, back to that site behind the library, we would like to put in some signage to recognize what is down there, because people will see it. I'm sure they have questions, like I've done walking tours down there, and people are really interested, so we'd like to make sure that that knowledge is widely available. And then there's also Freshies on High Street that actually is partially on top of an old Catholic burial ground. And so I've talked to the head office for R.H. Foster, and they kind of give me like the hairy eyeball every time I call them about it, but we really would like to put a sign in there to recognize the people who were laid to rest and then had a gas station put on top of them later. So that was actually part of the tarring and feathering of John Babbs, the Know Nothing Party, and a whole lot of religious hate that happened in the 19th century that led to what happened there. So yeah, those are just a couple of the sites that we'd like to put additional signage for. We aren't able to expand the Museum in the Streets project. It would be like cost prohibitive because we'd have to replace the giant signs that have all of the locations on them. So that was what we had originally intended to do, but once we talked to the company that does those, we realized that it would be like a $20,000 project. So we're just gonna do, start our own signage program.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that, hey Jen,
Hey.
I'm remembering a little bit because I was on this committee, commission last year for a while. Those signs are done in concert with some of the other committees or commissions in the city, meaning like they'll sort of look similar to other city signs? Or will it be
We haven't quite worked that out. So the Museum in the Streets is done as a partnership with the Historical Society and the Commission. But like I said, that's gonna be like way more money than you probably wanna give us to keep working on that. And it would be harder than we expected it to be to do that. So, I'm not aware of any other city signage to commemorate historic locations unless I'm just totally missing it. If there are others, then I would love to see it and hopefully, like follow suit with them. But if not, then we would be starting something of our own. And we have gotten quotes for those, and it's like a few $100s a piece, so, yeah. Anything else?
I would just say one of the things that's been on my list, and that you're talking about this on signage, is the big kind of murals about the Riverwalk behind the library. They say
Yeah.
proposed, and I always thought, I was like, oh, I can't wait, that's gonna be really cool. And then I went down there with the library director and took the Riverwalk. So, and I was thinking we could just get like a sticker on there or something. So maybe just when you're thinking about signage, kind of relabeling those so that people know that it actually exists now.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
put it
yeah.
in there, so.
Yeah, yeah,
It's small, but it's on my list, and I'll take it off it, so.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, that's something that we'd be working with Frenchman's Bay Conservancy to
Yeah.
talk to them about the sign and all that stuff, yeah. Yes? Great.
I think you're up next, because the next is the Historical Society.
Actually, we have, this is Holly Hendricks. She's
Great.
the chair of our Archives and Collections Committee. So-
Genevieve, as we transition, do you want to say anything about what you're doing Saturday at 3 o'clock?
Oh, yes, so, in partnership with Heart of Ellsworth, the Historical Society is doing Jane's Walk, and we will be meeting to walk through downtown and talk about some of the adaptive reuses that have happened with the buildings, in the downtown area, and also basically how a long time ago you could have lived your entire life in downtown Ellsworth and have had everything that you needed, and the ways that that's changed, and the ways that we can look at, like fulfilling that better in the future. So that will be at 3 o'clock, and we're meeting at the old burial ground behind the Congregational Church.
And it wraps up at 4 o'clock at Fogtown.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'm Holly Hendricks. I'm on the board of the Historical Society, and I also serve as chair of Archives and Collections. Jen said to introduce myself, since most of you don't know me. My graduate work is in computer science, education in library and archives, so she felt like that was relevant. And I retired as a Park Service archivist. And I've done quite a bit of work in digital humanities, which speaks to the grant we're asking for. We currently have a group of dedicated volunteers that meet with me once a week. I've been doing a lot of training, work on standards and best practices. Our collections were very much in a backlog situation. I think some of you know the background there. But a whole group of people came in quite recently, 2 years ago, and started working on the jail and completely revamping the way we deal with our collections. One of the things I began pursuing, some of you may be familiar with the Digital Archive and the History Trust that started down on MDI. The Digital Archive allowed cultural heritage institutions to interconnect their collections, gives it a digital presence, and you put up pictures and very good metadata, which is data about the items in your collections. You can create relationships across the collections. You can also create relationships to other institutions' collections. This has all been taken over by the History Trust, and in addition to all that front end, we will also be getting a back end to manage all of our collections internally, and I already got a grant for that. What we don't have is scanners. We've been doing a great deal of work in spreadsheets, which is great because it can be ingested into the platform the History Trust uses. I put on the second page what I'm looking for because I'm sure you wondered why I could possibly need a whole bunch of different scanners. I do not expect you to read the text. The first one is an oversized material scanner. We have many scrapbooks that if I touch, the page crumbles and the newspaper articles on it crumble. I need an overhead scanner. You cannot put those upside down on a flatbed and have any scrapbook left. They're in very poor condition. We can also do books that are bound without having to disbind them, which is highly preferable, as long as they're out of copyright. And we can also do newspapers, and there were many times that the American did a double-page spread that we would like to preserve digitally. So the oversized scanner is the biggest ticket item. We also, Jen told me to ask for the Moon, and we would also like a smaller version of that we could take to people's homes, because we often have people that want to show us their collections, but they're not willing to have us take them to the Historical Society to process. So there is a smaller version of that we could take to somebody's home and scan everything that they wanted to show us. And hopefully someday those collections would come to us, but it's a very good investment in the community. The second one is just your standard flatbed scanner for photographs. And I have raised quite a bit of money this year for things like white gloves and the little brushes you need. I've actually done a lot of successful fundraising, but we are flat on scanners. The third one is a sheet scanner. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with those. I can put a 50-page document in. It scans back to back and turns it into a PDF. PDF is the heart of the History Trust. And so many documents that have been sort of lost in a gray area between images and books, they now become available and fully searchable by OCR. The last one isn't quite a scanner, but it supports our tangible collections, a light box. It's very inexpensive, but that is what I hope we can get, and I hope we can get your support for, because this is the only gating factor to get us fully into the digital trust and connected with 15 other cultural heritage institutions. The two newest are Jonathan Fisher and the Ellsworth Historical Society. So this is beginning to grow on the mainland in addition to all the island societies. So do you have any questions for me?
I guess my question is, the scanners don't add up to $5,000?
No, they don't. I summarized. Jen?
Oh, and then we also have our Wi-Fi again for this year.
That's in
Okay.
it. Yeah, I didn't put the second book scanner. The two together are over 1,000. I wrote a paper and Jen pulled from it to write the grant for you. Do you remember what else went into the 5K besides the wireless? Because I have only my stuff, not your stuff. We could certainly get you easily, item by item. That's $649, and then the slightly smaller one was $400, and then two of these, but no, it doesn't add to 5,000.
Was that maybe including the membership?
Oh, you know what? It included 2 Windows laptops, that's why.
Oh, right.
We converted 8 old Windows laptops to Linux, and we're using those. It's a wonderful opportunity, but with the highest end scanners, I also need 2 Windows laptops that are pretty high end. So I think that probably would. If you need an exact breakdown, we could certainly get that for you.
The math wasn't working. I
No,
was
you're
curious why, now I know why. So, thank you.
Yeah, anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Recreation Commission?
Yeah, you can just run through, and if we want to give you, if they have questions for specific organizations who might be here, just call
Yep.
them up. Yeah.
Everyone has a copy of the recreation proposed budget. It's been a lot of changes this year, but willing to answer questions on any of them. We have some people in the crowd that can probably answer some of the requests better than I can. So I think the big changes this year, or not, I guess that significant, was the Ellsworth Music Institute. So for the past few years, they've asked for a higher amount than we had allocated. But we really felt, when we're in the Recreation Commission, we're always trying to think about different segments of the population, the community that can be served. And it really stood out that given their times and how they're approaching their music programs, such as homeschool, I think recovery program, Friends in Action, we felt that they served kind of a different populace than some of these other organizations. So they asked for I believe it might have been 7,000 the last few years, and we've awarded, I think, 3,000 last year, so that was the increase there, their costs have gone up significantly, and they rely on our funding for grant funding as well. So that was the big one there. The winter holiday events, we actually reduced that budget. As you can see, that's a pretty heavily volunteer-driven event, mainly Kim Fitch back there does most of the parade. So we don't have a lot of costs associated with that. But this next season, we're planning on kind of bringing back the winter carnival. So that's why we have the 10,000 there. But that goes towards the tree lighting, the Christmas parade, then the winter carnival for next year. We do have probably a little bit more of an expenditure that hasn't shown up here yet for fireworks, I'm guessing,
Yeah,
next year.
the deposit.
We put a deposit since we're not able to do the event this year, for next year. So kind of reduce that one, but it's still, because we're increasing a new event next year. Ice rink, so as probably people in the community know, we haven't had an ice rink the last couple of years. We're trying to rethink of how we can approach this. So we had to purchase new equipment a couple of years ago, so we have new boards, I believe now, is that correct, Glenn? Or
No,
getting new
that's-
boards?
that's in
part of
here.
this, okay. So we're getting new boards, and I think we're gonna try to bid out for someone to maintain the ice rink. So it's getting harder every year, it's a pretty short season. Even if we had the ice rink up this year, it's a pretty short season where people can actually use it. So it becomes, kind of a difficult task. I've gone and tried to find sponsors from banks and different companies to actually purchase a different ice rink. But a lot of them had come back and just talked about how short the season is and kind of how unreliable that is. Let's see. Do you want to talk about the Ellsworth Recreation Fair now, or?
Yeah, so this coming year, or this summer, for this fiscal year, will be the first time doing Ellsworth Recreation Fair, getting a lot of community partners who have trails or recreation assets in the city in one place, and providing education to the public on those organizations, but also it'll be paired with a gear repair for hiking gear or outdoor recreation gear or exercise gear. Nonprofit that comes, and the fee for the nonprofit that comes is $1,000. So this year we paid for part of it out of the recreation fair budget, and then we're asking for private sponsors. We want to do it twice a year, so this dollar figure cost covers the next event, the second event, which will be less private sponsorship, but be more of like a yard sale kind of event. So not quite as open for, I guess, private sponsorship. That was just kept under miscellaneous projects, and I broke it out to name it.
And then the other one on here would be the increase for the YMCA. So I only have a sheet going back to 2019, but we've pretty much been funding the YMCA at the same 62,000 amount going back to 2019 and possibly before that. So Matt Montgomery came in and gave a presentation for the Recreation Commission, and he can probably come up and speak for himself. But we felt as a commission that it was time to increase this amount. The YMCA has been a good partner for recreation. As you all know, we actually don't have a recreation department or position in the city. So the YMCA takes on a lot of those programming and a lot of other resources that we would have to put out. So that was the reasoning for that increase there. And if you guys want, Matt can come up and probably talk about YMCA.
Can I just ask you a question before Matt
Sure.
comes up? I was remembering last year that the ice skating rink problem was that you couldn't buy the liner for it because it didn't exist. Is that still a
That was
problem or not? a problem
that
anymore?
was the year before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the problem was that you had a new planner who didn't know we had an ice rink, and so the liner got ordered late.
I see.
Yeah.
It wasn't that you couldn't, I
Yes.
thought it was one of those COVID things like,
No,
and ice skating liner.
We just couldn't order the liner in time for like the season.
season,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
Yeah, there's been a few problems, but yeah.
Got it.
Quiet bunch up here.
What? I'd like to hear from Matt, or just, it's
Sure.
always good to hear what the why.
I'll just have a little handout for everybody. That goes along with the request.
Oh, actually.
Oh, you want one from
I
Michelle?
want from Michelle.
This is essentially a breakdown of how the funds are used. My name's Matt Montgomery. I'm the CEO of the YMCA. So as Eric mentioned, the Y for, I think it's the last 6 years, has been level funded, about $62,000 a year. Going way back, there was a time over 10 years ago where the funds were over $100,000 and were that way for a number of years. That was in response to the Y essentially being the rec department for the city of Ellsworth. Since then, again, we continue to offer a lot of the youth sports activities, some of the travel activities, but really the increase that we're looking for this year, it's in the rec department because that's where we've historically been, but as you see in this sheet right here, the amount of scholarships that we've been providing to citizens of Ellsworth for primarily for summer camp and childcare, but as well as membership, has increased significantly. And it's done so, this is just a 2-year picture, but if you were to look back, it's been going up every year. Obviously, costs for everyone are going up. Employment costs are going up. But one of the big things that we're noticing is the need is going up. Where 5 years ago, we might have had about 12 to 14% of Ellsworth residents seeking some sort of financial assistance for membership or any program. Now it's up above 20%, which is well above the national average for YMCA's. National average is about 8%. So we're way above what that is. And so essentially, again, you see, looking at summer camp enrollment, we're enrolling more kids, but the cost is going up as well. Something that happened also just just really last year is the state reimbursement. If we have quite a few families that receive state subsidy in order to attend childcare or day camp. Since we're a licensed facility, we can take these families. The state reimbursement, we're the lowest in the state of Maine. We're the same as Aroostook County. So if it costs $200 to send a kid to camp, we get $150. We can't charge the families and don't charge the families that extra $50. So that's essentially where a lot of that scholarship comes in. So the rate of reimbursement has gone down or hasn't kept up with the cost of providing services. So again, the amount that we've scholarshiped just for Ellsworth citizens last year has gone up 44%. We're asking for a 12% increase in funding.
I just want to remind the council as well, last year's discussion, we talked to the rec commission about some lack of information, especially from some of these organizations that did have a huge portion of the budget, like the YMCA. So this year, the response was, I think you've been at most of our meetings over the course of the year, and the packet here is really robust. I mean, their financial statements are in here, full description of all the services offered and rendered. So I think that's what we were looking for last year. So at least the presentation is all there. The value, I think, is evident.
Thanks, Kevin. Happy to take any questions.
I would just say, if you live in Ellsworth and have had a kid, you know what the value is, like you've lived it. You know.
Free memberships for police and fire departments as well?
That's correct, and we don't include that in these scholarship rates here, but yeah, we do. Free memberships for Ellsworth Police, Hancock Sheriff's, Ellsworth Fire Department, use the gymnasium, use the fitness center, the pool, yeah. And then, not touching on the Moore Center, I do have information on that as well, because I know that's sort of a hot topic as well, as, the city provides this space for the Moore Center, where the Y manages and runs our child care center. But especially in the last year, you've seen a huge increase in Ellsworth Town usage of that, okay, which is not charged. We provide the space, we're providing everything at that center, outside of some repair costs above at a certain level, but everything under $5,000 is on us. And so We're hosting some, I think the Arbor Commission is coming this week.
Last week.
Sorry, that was last week, and, you know, there's just a lot of different, there was a training that we provided space for. Of course, we've had FEMA and SBA in there for a few weeks now. So we're working to make that Moore Center even more available, but there are costs associated with that as well. In fact, it does, even with childcare in the Moore Center, managing the Moore Center costs us money every year. And actually, I've got a little breakdown. I'm happy to show that to you as well. The top part of this shows you thanks to just the Moore Center budget, what our expenses are for the Moore Center compared to what the income is. And then on the bottom, thanks, appreciate that. On the bottom, it shows you our budget this year, where we include the childcare portion. And of course, childcare is profitable in and of itself, not nearly as profitable as it was 10 years ago. Again, as I mentioned before, more people needing assistance. The cost of running a childcare is way more expensive than it used to be. We have more infants and toddlers, which is more expensive program to run because of ratios. So putting those two programs together, the childcare and the Moore Center, which is a department for us, it's you know, a big part of what we do. Put those two together, even though childcare is making money, overall managing the Moore Center is not profitable for the Y. It's something that's important to us. We wouldn't have other spot to put our kids in childcare if we didn't have that spot. So I think it's been a very good collaboration with the city. And again, in the last year, we've been able to bring in a lot of different organizations. I think there were 64 different organizations that utilized the Moore Center last year.
Do you have a wait list on your childcare facility?
We do, yeah.
But how large is it?
It depends on the rooms. Our largest wait list right now is with our infants. Pretty much almost very little to no wait list with our preschool program. One of the things that we had to do last year, our Moore Center childcare actually lost money last year, and a lot of it was because of the way that the state reevaluated the reimbursement program was not the same as it had been previously. And so we had, again, a very robust number of kids or families that were on that. What we've had to do is actually limit the number of families that we can take that are part of the state subsidy in order to make things, you know, make it stay open essentially. So at this point, I would say between Moore Center, we also run a child care up at the Beachland Center. So between those two, there's probably, I'd say maybe about 30 kids, 30 families on the wait list right now. Our other issue is hiring staff, which is not a great climate for being able to attract new employees right now.
I guess we're good.
Okay, all right.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Because I'm a numbers person too, I just wanted to provide some context for the overall recreation budget. I think a lot of people, we don't really look back this far. But if you look at from 2012 to 2024, so last fiscal year, the recreation budget's only increased 6% over that 12-year period, whereas the average municipal budget increased 67%. So it really has not kept up. And not saying it should have, kept up the exact average, but if you did take that into consideration, the recreation budget overall would be over $200,000 at this point. So as of 10 years, from 2000 12 to 22 was basically flat. There was zero increase in the budget. It's slowly been increasing. But I think that's just important to kind of consider in the context of the overall budget there.
The grant,
What's that?
the grant.
Grant? Kim, you want to talk? Or, Nick, I see you're here. Yeah.
Yeah, I can say hi. Why not? I have a nice vest. Good evening. Welcome, Charlie. Nice to see you. Good to see everybody. I think you got a lot of information. Unless there's any questions, I think the only difference in the ask from last year, I realize as I'm sitting here, did I kick myself in the knee? But I'm aware of the budget constraints and the concerns for the school district. And the grant is extremely committed to education and relationships with the middle school and the junior high and everybody. And it just seemed to be very difficult to make sure that kids in the district came to the Grand to see these PAC programs, these PAC shows, even though they're only $4 a kid and have been $4 a kid for a really long time. So I think we just decided that the money you usually give the Grand generously, thank you so much, and you would give $15,000 to education anyway, which is great. I wanted to reassure the school, April, and the school that that money would be earmarked to make sure that every kid in the school district saw a show at the Grand at no cost. So the city would ostensibly be funding Ellsworth children seeing educational theater at the Grand with no burden. So I'm realizing I should have asked for more money. That's what I do. I'm not very good at this.
Normally that is somewhere.
Usually
in your
that
budget
15,
request.
I do, we commit it to the education program and we do work with the school and we'll often do outreach for free and do all that. But it was earmarked to help with education overall, to supplement, because productions cost way more than $4 a kid, but we didn't want kids not to come. So it was always that way, but now I'm hoping that with this funding, I can tell the schools that all they have to worry about is scheduling the kids to come to a show and no financial burden. I think what makes our ask unique in some ways is everything the city awards us is directly given to back to the community, right? So all the movies booked and the music booked and everything booked is all for Ellsworth. It's all sponsored by the city. So I figured that the student tickets would be the same, that these kids in Ellsworth knew they were seeing a show because of the generosity of the city council and the community. I thought that's pretty interesting. Yeah, it was probably just for me. But if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer any. Yeah.
A question, how often do you hear from these kids, this is their first time going into the Grand?
All
or
the time.
If they're seeing live theater, the
All
first
the
time
time.
they've seen live theater?
Every show. Every show, there's a significant percentage of kids that it's not only their first live experience, it's their only live experience. I tell a famous story, and everyone's bored of it, but I'll do it anyway because my brain can only remember a few stories. One of the first weeks I'm here, I was holding the door for kids coming to see a PAC show, and there was like a first grader. And I said, "How was it?" And she said, "This is the greatest day of my life." Punchline is, she was in first grade.
Punchline is field trips are fun.
Yeah, yes, and that too. Well, that's what I say to them as they're walking through the crosswalk. I'm like, "Hey, got out of school for the day." I'm like, "Hey." No, all the time. Oh, yeah. And you'll hear that from all ages. They'll say like, "I saw my first show at the Grand. I saw my first show at the Grand." It's said more often than you can count. Yeah. Which I thought was really cool. Thank you for asking. Any other questions you might have? I was pretty thorough in stuff I provided. I overwhelmed you a little bit. I'm like, I'll give it all. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate, the Grand appreciates everything. It's a community organization, it's a community venue, it's used by the community. So I feel like your support is valued and really important.
I know my son and daughter are really looking forward to the Frozen show. This
Yeah, Frozen Summer Show. Don't miss the premiere of Blueberries for Sal,
Oh,
which we're doubling with last year's Burt Dow. We just had a meeting about it today, and those are grand adaptations of those classic stories with permission of the estate.
wow.
So Sal McCloskey and Jane go for it, so we did. I'm a little nervous, Charlie,
Yeah.
a little nervous. They're small but mighty.
I just read was it One Fine Day in Maine?
Yes, that's next year.
Oh, that one's.
Yeah, we're doing one day in Maine. One morning in Maine next year.
Come on.
And then, what's the other one?
Once a week.
Couple more on the list. We're just gonna keep doing them.
Yeah.
Pretty fun. Thank you.
Anybody else have questions for Eric?
Do you have any involvement with the slide at Milton Park?
Actually, no, I told my sister I'd bring this up. There are 2 broken slides.
Yes, I know.
Yes,
Okay.
I have two now.
Yeah,
expected some
I have
pounding.
playground-age children. We were there last weekend, and I'm like, great, the other slide has a hole in on that. So I guess for the slide, there's a actual answer, and there's a maybe more fundamental answer. So fundamentally, there's no one's job, I guess, is to make sure that the slides get repaired in a sense. There's not like really a lot of oversight there, or to think about the future, what happens when the slide breaks. The actual answer is a little more complicated, where a slide did get ordered last year from the manufacturer of the playground equipment. And you can correct me if I misspeak here, Matt. When that slide arrived, it did not fit the equipment that we have. And so originally, I think the Public Works Department was gonna try to just put it up there securely. But with checking with the, I guess, lawyers or insurance company, that would basically negate the liability insurance that usually comes with this playground equipment. So we could not put that slide up. So now we have a slide that can't go there, can't find a slide that goes there. So this whole process has taken quite a while, as everyone knows. And so I guess the latest is we're looking into potentially just capping that and either buying something for the slide that we have, so it can be a standalone slide, or replacing a piece of equipment. But again, we haven't had a chance to talk about it with this other slide. Are we gonna run into the same issue? I don't know. But I do remember that was your campaign promise, that I know you have
Falling
to bring it
short,
up, so.
Well, so we're going backwards on the slide.
Separate from that,
Sliding backwards.
it just actually seems like a really big, I just think about how much the Knowlton Park actually gets used by the community, which is a whole ton.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it seems like a priority.
Yeah. I mean, it might be a good segue into my prepared statement here,
Say it might be.
potentially, so.
Well, I was gonna ask, are you gonna say anything about a Parks and Rec
Yeah,
department
exactly.
tonight, or is that?
So I didn't know if I want to do that at the end, like if we want to let other people go and bring that, because it's not involved in necessarily this proposed
Just do it all
budget.
now.
I think
Okay.
just do it.
So I wrote a statement because I'm better at reading than impromptu speaking here. So a little over 50 years ago, the city of Ellsworth created the Recreation Commission. Don't worry, it's not the 50-year history. So we're currently made up of 7 community members representing partners like Frenchman Bay Conservancy, Woodlawn Museum, the Grand Theater, Ellsworth School Athletics, as well as local businesses. We also have city council and city staff representation. Some of our duties, according to Section 3, Chapter 31, include to plan, promote, organize, and supervise a comprehensive municipal recreation program and administer the same in the interest of the entire community, to review the recreational use of playgrounds, play fields, recreation centers, swimming areas, ball diamonds, and such other recreational areas and facilities, to conduct and promote any form of recreation, cultural, or social activity that will employ the leisure time of citizens. And that's really where things like the holiday events kind of fall into our purview, and arts and music, and to direct the expenditures of all monies appropriated for the city council for all matters concerning recreation. So think about this in a different way. We only meet as a commission once a month for 90 minutes, or 18 hours per year. If we hired someone tomorrow and said, you have what's the equivalent of 2 workdays to plan, promote, organize a comprehensive municipal recreation program while reviewing and promoting the 27 city-owned and partnered recreational assets, making sure you direct all the expenditures, approve your municipal budget, and plan multiple holiday events. They'd probably say, that's not possible. And I would totally agree with that. So what is the solution when faced with an impossible task? So there's probably a couple options. But coming from multiple sources in the last year, and even talking to people going back 20 years on the Rec Commission, it all kind of points to the same thing. So currently, without a dedicated department or position, responsibilities and potential initiatives related to city recreation and related facilities are not given the necessary focus they demand. Many of the city's recreational assets are not even being properly maintained, never mind being used for their full potential. Multiple departments, city employees, and partner organizations have done a commendable job operating and maintaining these assets, but without a singular authority, oversight, and vision, they can only go so far. Coupled with a high turnover of city positions and a heavy reliance on volunteer-based action, including this commission, we're not really meeting our potential. Establishing a department under the guidance of a recreation director will ensure these areas receive the proper attention and structured management they require. In a recent discussion with the MRPA, which is basically it's an organization of all of Maine's parks and rec directors. And we met with them last month, talked to a couple directors for smaller towns, and it was stated during this conversation to be highly unusual for a city the size of Ellsworth to not have a recreation department or position. Also, from my position on the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee and the related Recreation Subcommittee, I know the draft form of the plan states the very first policy action in the comprehensive plan under recreation as establish a Parks and Recreation Department to manage programming and events, oversee maintenance of facilities, and coordinate resources of the city and partner agencies. Again, this feedback is guided from both the community, our consulting firm we work with, and committee members. So it's our recommendation as a commission is to approve funding for this budget cycle for 50% of the expected salary of a newly created recreation position for the city of Ellsworth. This will defer some of the costs to the next budget cycle and give the Recreation Commission time to work with other departments and organizations like the MRPA to build out the infrastructure and hire for this position to start in 2025. And then below are some of the benefits we expect to see from this position. And there's a bunch of bullet points I'm not going to read right now, but I can send to you. But essentially, as we talked about, even with the ice rink, Knowlton Park, playground, all good examples, right? There's just no really oversight, or there's no one's job to be doing this. So that would be a focus. Our recommendation for this position would be initially be facilities focused and potentially transition to more program focus in the future if that's what they choose to do. But increased efficiency and coordination with other departments in the city. A lot of recreation departments that we spoke to have some sort of revenue generating functions. Sometimes up to 50% of their budget is through revenue generation. Long-term planning. So I'm at Knowlton Park all the time, and it seems like we have these organizations or group of people that get together, they build something great, but then 20 years later it's just falling apart, which is essentially the playground at Knowlton Park right now. So cost savings through preventative maintenance. Same thing, if someone notices that there's a bolt loose and fixes it, does that prevent this thing rattling for years and then breaking? More time for grant, acquisition and writing, and potentially better engagement with the community in a feedback loop. So those are our main reasons, I guess, for. So I know it's, I'm a taxpayer and I watch a city council meeting, so I know oftentimes it's looked upon as another expense. But I think we're really at the point now where it's just not working without this kind of position. We have a list that we toured of 27 different partner and city-owned recreational assets. It's a huge inventory. So. And then I believe the Arbor Commission as well too, which you may have heard of from already, but they were on the meeting with that MRPA with us as well, and had some ideas about kind of partnering with this position as well.
But the position, you didn't put it on in here, or you did?
No, it wouldn't be under the Recreation Commission budget, similar to it's not under the Arbor Commission
I
budget.
see.
It's
Just a
new-
recommendation.
Yeah,
To put it under
the Recreation Department.
its own.
Yeah.
There you go.
Got it. I followed myself full circle and got to where you are.
But I mean, I know I make that joke, pretty much I say this every other meeting about meeting 18 hours, a year. But if you think about it, it's kind of ridiculous. It's a lot of stuff for some people that are volunteering their time to do. And the way that we all know municipal governments work is even if I wanted to get together with a few other people and kind of hash out a lot of stuff, like oftentimes we're not able to do that because that constitutes a public meeting. So it's just not really designed to get a lot of work done in that capacity. So
You can meet more than once a month.
that's true.
I won't be at all of them, but.
You could meet 5 days.
But I
a
do have to
week.
say that, Matt in particular, and Councilmember Stein have been really active members of the Recreation Commission, so, I mean, I think like even,
I'm not a member.
That's right, not a member. But just the amount of work that I know that Matt's doing, which is not necessarily even part of his job, could that be better served doing, other things in the city, probably? So I think there's a lot of reasons to have that position.
I'd love not to do it.
And he would love not to do it, yeah, there you go.
I was gonna say your number 18 hours is probably generous. I know the years before I joined, it was kind of the norm to miss more meetings than to make meetings to find
Yeah.
a quorum, and we even added a member so we could, get better at meeting every month and having a quorum. It's sort of anomalous that we would even meet monthly, and I think it just speaks to the incredible volunteers that are on it, like Kim putting together the whole holiday parade, and your administrative skills putting this together. I don't think we could count on a group of volunteers every year consistently, nonstop into the future. I think at some point, groups won't be as strong, and we would want to rely on a
Yeah, it's kind of
city
cyclical,
position.
right? Depends who's on there. So you're absolutely right. We have a great makeup right now. And just for the council, for a few things that we've done, I've only been involved about 2.5 years, but we did kind of redo the organizational structure, went from a committee of 9, a commission of 9 to 7, which helped us have more than 50% our meetings take place. So we made that event. We've really kind of worked on the holiday events, so the tree lightings improved the last few years, the parade, bring back Winter Carnival. This year, we did 3 different asset tours. So we got a van and a lot of us drove around to most of the 27 different assets to kind of look at them and kind of write down improvements needed, potential uses for the future. So that's a part of hopefully the comprehensive plan as well. And then we've been talking a lot about like signage, kind of wayfinding, updating the website. But again, when you look at what we do in a particular year, it's probably 3 or 4 meetings are just tree lighting, parade, 3 or 4 meetings for the budget, and that leaves a couple meetings. We're definitely not running the recreation programming for a city. Any other questions or?
Could you send us your statement?
Yeah, of course, yep,
Great, thank you.
sure.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to promote the recreation? Show of hands.
I just want to note as well, the Rec Commission has been in touch with Carrie from HR to talk about, to request information on what salaries in the state for comparable cities look like, and if possible, to bring somebody in, like Eric was saying, halfway through the year, to give them time to find somebody and to cut down on that fiscal budget for next year, and to figure out what benefits would look like for that position and everything. So that information is there, and the commission has been talking about it. So if there's interest from the council, I'd say we could request that commission, or I don't want to say Matt, but somebody to put together, what a budget for that city department could look like. I think that would be the next step if we wanted to do that for this year, although time is pretty tight.
Would part of that, John, include potential, looking at what the revenue sources could be for an actual recreation department, someone that's running this? Was it mentioned that there's potential for revenue? So obviously anything that could offset a new position with revenue, I think we'd want to be able to take a look at that.
Yeah, should come with like grants that you hope to
Yeah,
get, or
yeah,
at least
just
apply
something.
for.
Yeah, I know it's hard
cover
to
that.
tell, but just to get a sense of what that might look like.
This is my third budget season, as well as yours, Casey. And when I got elected to the council, I was in shock at how little Ellsworth spends on city recreation. With all of the other monies that are spent in all of these other areas, I was amazed at how little went into recreation. And much like the library, I was shocked at the treatment of the library. And I'm not sure I agree with all of the allocations and all of that, but the overall number is incredibly low for the size of Ellsworth, which maybe is driven by no recreation department head or what have you, but I would think that with all of the things that the city spends money on, that spending money on their youth would be a good decision. And if it had to increase or double this budget, I realize no one wants to pay more taxes, I get that, and I wonder sometimes if we shake this budget around some ways, that there couldn't be more put into recreation and less put into other things. But I'm still amazed that we don't have a bigger recreation budget, and that we don't prioritize that higher than it has been.
So Steve, I just wanted to respond to that, because I had pulled this, and I don't have all the context, and maybe Matt even knows more than I do, but the Bucksport budget, which is a
Thank you.
$6 million budget.
Is
and,
what now?
I think it's a $6 million municipal budget, I believe. So
Okay.
it's, less than half of ours. Their recreation spends $240,000. 43,000 of that is wages. I believe they don't have a director. And 130, this is from a couple years ago, but 130,000 is to the YMCA for a contract that they have there. And that's more now, I believe.
Yeah, it's $155,000. We're essentially we are the recreation department. The one thing that we don't do is the parks. So like the waterfront and whatnot, we don't manage that piece of it. But we run their outdoor pool, we put on most of the events in the town, as well as offer the summer camp, after-school programming, youth sports activities.
Could I have you at the mic, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So the contract we have with the town of Bucksport is, the YMCA is essentially the rec department. $155,000 going into this year, is $150,000 last year. And with those funds, we manage their outdoor pool that they, obviously, it's only open in the summertime. We run all the youth sports activities out there, after-school programming, summer camp, essentially everything but the parks piece of it. So they just built a skate park, although we're kind of trying to work with that group, we don't manage that piece. We don't manage their waterfront park. But essentially do just about everything else recreation-wise for the town of Bucksport. And just like this is how I've sort of built what I presented today is, quite a fair amount of those funds are going towards scholarship for families. We know that childcare and day camps are huge with economic development. You all just ran went through this and saw how important access to childcare and access to summer camp is for bringing people into your town. So it's been a great relationship with the town of Bucksport for, I think, about almost 10 years now.
One last thing I want to say, and then I know we want to move this along, but, so the two towns we talked to on this call was Bridgeton, right? It was Bridgeton and Poland, Maine, both smaller populations, I think 5,000. And I think it was Bridgeton, they started off with a $70,000 recreation position, and they had grown it over, I think, 10 years to $700,000 budget, but it was bringing in, I think, $300,000 or $400,000 in revenue, so that was a little bit different because they had a summer camp and stuff, which we wouldn't want to do with ours since Y already has a summer camp. But the point of that is you get someone capable in a position, you figure out how to make money, and what does their recreation, that town look like now that they're went from essentially no position to $700,000. And I believe even the other town still had like a maybe $400,000 recreation budget. So yeah, so I would say, I mean, it's significantly lower, stands out what we're spending in this town for the type of area we are in recreation. So that's it, I'm done.
Anybody else have final thoughts or questions? Arbor Commission?
That's something else. You guys have a copy of the budget. All right, Tabitha White, the chair of the Arbor Commission, newly formed commission, or newly sat position, I guess, commission, with 9 volunteer members, and our mission is to enhance the health and preservation and expansion of Ellsworth urban forest. And this is our first year of budget operations, and we're aiming to make a substantial difference in our community. This proposed budget will enable us to undertake various activities and initiatives that align our priorities with the Arbor Commission. So I have an ask for $5,000 for tree planting and maintenance. This is to fund the purchase of trees, planting supplies, and equipment to expand and maintain our urban tree canopy. And that $5,000 to be more than matched by project canopy grants, which we are applying for 2 and expecting to get at least one of those, one $20,000 grant and one $200,000 grant that are both due around the 15th of May. And also with volunteer and nonprofit contributions through Green Ellsworth and the Ellsworth Garden Club there. The breakdown of tree costs for that would be about 10 2 to 2.5 inch trees, with some ideas of replacements where we had lost one along Main Street, where a few years ago I'd worked with Lisa to replace it. That never got replaced, up by the post office, I think one building up from the post office there. Potential for 3 new ones new trees at Goodwill on the High Street side there, where there's an expansive lawn pit, kind of an extension of the planting that we did across from McDonald's a couple of years ago. And 6 along the rail trail, either on the high school, around the high school property, or between Lakes Lane and Tradewinds. There's a lot of space there. And we can always do more if we go down in size as well there. So we have the ability, we're pretty flexible there. But that includes everything from loam, bark mulch, stakes, arbor tie, the tree procurement, and the tree delivery to us. And that's without going through a contractor, and instead doing things in-house, buying in-house, reducing, getting wholesale costs and not retail costs. So really saving money there with volunteer and kind of something similar to what we did in the our original High Street planting, where we worked with Public Works to bring soil and machinery down, and then we had volunteer labor do the actual manual labor there. We're asking for $1,000 for education and outreach to amplify our educational efforts. They're complemented by substantial support from our volunteer contributions, nonprofit partnerships, and anticipated project canopy grant funds. This will support the creation of educational materials, workshops, and community events aimed at engaging residents and increasing awareness and the invaluable benefits of trees and urban forestry. I estimate that this education and outreach budget will cover 2 to 5 events to take place at the Moore Center, with a speaker budget ranging from free to $500 per speaker, depending on if we go with state or Fed representatives or architects, authors, and industry leaders there per event. And the materials cost about $50 per event for snacks and printed materials or treat giveaways or things like that. And then we also are asking for $5,000. $5,000? I'm asking for $5,000 for street right-of-way data collection. So currently, if I wanted to find out if I could plant a tree on Franklin Street, or it would be really difficult for me to do because we don't have a comprehensive map of all of our right-of-ways. I have to, and anytime I've tried to do a street tree planting, I've had to work with planning department and the public works department to find out if the street that I'm working on has a public right-of-way that we can plant on. So we are asking for this $5,000 to help with identify city-owned trees and suitable planting locations along streets, to inform future tree planting initiatives and help optimize the distribution of trees through our city. And then the $5,000 ask will be matched by the planning department. I think that's still happening.
I think I removed it from my budget.
You
'cause
did?
I thought you removed it from your budget.
Oh, okay, well, I did not.
Well,
But,
Susan's still going.
yeah, that is something that we are having issues with right now. It does take the staff's time to find out whether or not trees are city trees or if they are private trees and what streets we can do plantings on. So that is a big issue when it comes to learning about our urban forest canopy and our right-of-ways. And I think that's it for my budget. So between $6,000 and $11,000 there.
Maybe like $5,000.
And, yeah, do you guys have any questions on the budget asks?
The right-of-way study, how broad is that? Throughout the downtown or the city?
Yeah, the downtown core area. So I think we want to go all the way up to the Myrick Street area and over to around the high school area, past the Union River, up into the neighborhoods by the Woodlawn and up towards the hospital. So really this downtown core area. That's kind of where we're focusing on trying to get the trees that are currently in the Jordan Homestead Nursery into that same area. So really figuring out what is city-owned property there and what we can plant on to help with stormwater mitigation, heat island effect, and reducing temperatures in our city there. So we have, like I said, I have to work every time I have a question about a location, I have to reach out on that specific location. So it's something that we should have, and we've actually asked Jan Santerre from the state of Maine if that was something that we could fund through a grant, and she did not like that idea and said that the city should really know its own right-of-ways. So she didn't want to put money for tree plantings towards discovering what right-of-ways are, thinking that that was something that the city should already really know, which it should. We should know that.
That would create a GIS database, something usable by other departments?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Right now, it's just a line that's not you can't really tell what that exactly is. And there are some streets that are documented, but not all of our streets are documented.
Right
Yeah,
now,
right
it's
now.
me and Jim driving around in a truck. And which we did with the other vendor and kind of pointed out things. And yeah, this is an asset I think that the city can continue to use.
It would have use for multiple departments.
Yeah. So maybe I'll keep mine in there and
Back
that,
in.
because we really need it, but that might not cover the whole expense of that.
Well, we'll have to go after a grant to fund the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that idea. I've run into right-of-way issues at my business, and I know the city is dealing with some right-of-way issues with trees falling on various people's properties.
Yeah, it always
identifying the fault.
happens there. Yeah, every city, even when they have their right-of-ways clearly defined, that's always where the tree lies can be a big issue in cities, so. But yeah, we can't really do an urban forestry program without really knowing what we own. So it's a good place to start right there. But we do have some places, hence the ask for the ability to plant some trees this year.
Kind of looking, going through the packet and getting back to the proposed tree warden for the city and the synergy potentially with a rec department head. I think if, back to John, just that conversation, we've kind of heard about it and seen it here, I guess, in the next step of the binder, for the budget binder. Charlie, I don't know how that might be presented to us to consider rather than in concept, just what that might look like in actual.
We could talk to Carrie a little more and flesh that out. Maybe I'll reach out to you all as we develop that piece, just so you can kind of consider what
Yeah.
the impact of that package.
Yeah, I'd like to see what that would look like.
Fringe and FMLA and all those things. But you'll have to take the title of tree warden out of my cold dead hands.
We could give you like
Such a good title.
Such a good. Thinking about changing my LinkedIn just.
Ellsworth support.
It is a cool title to have, it really is.
It does come with a badge. Totally need to get him a
Made it
badge.
The big like.
A badge you can wear till January of 2025. Well, I just want to say, because I'm on the Arbor Commission, how amazed I am by the Arbor Commission and the depth of knowledge of the people who are on that commission. Like, I've said it here a million times, but it blows my mind. And I actually think $11,000 is actually probably pretty small, given the importance of what they're doing and how we haven't really paid attention to our trees and where they are and how we're taking care of them for many, many years. But I really appreciate that the commission kind of has this vision for the future and this vision for Ellsworth that feels really, really important to me. And they are giving you like the first step in a really manageable, bite-sized nugget.
Yeah, yeah.
A
We want to do
seedling.
it right, and we want to, we want to prove to the community that we are utilizing this funding well, and that the programs that we enact and the trees that we plant and maintain are going to be successful. We don't really want to see another High Street failure there with the ginkgos, and we all know what that looks like. So that's what we're avoiding, and we know that there's a better way to do things, and we want to educate and push those ideas through there.
Also, I'm sorry, just say one. I just have to say how much I love the Arbor Commission. And the educational stuff I just think is so valuable. And when the commission talks about the kinds of programs that they could put on to teach us how to prune trees or what trees to plant, I'm super excited about that. I did go to the American Chestnut Foundation thing last Friday. It was Friday night. I was like, do I want to go to bed? And then I was like, this is amazing. I have to plant some chestnut trees.
Yeah, chestnut trees are so cool. The history is really cool.
The programming is a small piece of it, but also really cool.
Yeah, and I already have buy-in right now from the Jan Santerre, the state urban forestry director, and also our Northeast, the urban forestry coordinator for the Northeast, the U.S. Forest Service position there. So, two people that have already committed to coming and speaking for free for that one. So, and I'm, excited if we get this money to certainly look for some more cool people to get in front of us all here. But yeah.
Other questions?
We get some more apple trees around?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited about that prospect. And I just want to go and support Eric too on the Parks and Recreation Director. After talking with the main parks.
Recreation.
Thank you. They made it very clear that we have a really good relationship right now and something that's working really well with the YMCA, and to really not break that apart, instead boost that up and focus more on our facilities and the maintenance of these areas. And of course, the Arbor Commission is really pushing for somebody that's knowledgeable in trees and horticulture there as well. We see this as a position that can oversee that can create management plans and oversee management by or maintenance by contractors, city employees, or volunteers there. And of course, we see that there's the potential for a lot of grant funding from this position. Like I said, we're applying for that $200,000 and a $20,000 grant there. One of which, if we were to get, and the city was to approve, could potentially help to fund that Parks and Rec position as a project manager to the tree planting program for that $200,000 grant. So might be some creative ways if we get that grant to pay, to at least jumpstart that position, which is kind of exciting there, so.
This was the 20,000 matching, not the 200,000.
This is a $200,000 unmatched grant that
That's-
we have the potential to, $20,000 to $40,000 there, I think is what we're looking at for a project manager for that program. So, and then the rest could go for the maintenance and the parks and facilities side of it if, wanted to supplement that, but.
And said we'll most likely receive only one of these grants. Is there like a reason why, or do you have any kind of inclination of?
I just don't think they want to give too much to one.
Gotcha, so
Yeah.
we won't get.
Yeah, that IRA money is that $200,000. That came from the Inflation Reduction Act. And that is that $1.2 billion that was allocated through the US. The regular project canopy funds are I can't remember what the feds get annually, but it's in the millions. They distribute that to states, and that typically looks like I think it's, I can't remember if it's always, or if it's just between $10,000 and $20,000 per year that the project canopy grants typically run. So this $200,000 one is because of the Inflation Reduction Act and the focus on urban forestry, planting and maintenance of trees and city streets.
Great. I know I owe you an email on some of our beautification stuff and the other groups too.
Bless you.
But maybe we'll see more on just if there's anything else we can do to help support that one.
Yeah. Matt has been great. We've already met with him, and I have a plan to meet with Highway, Adam Wilson there. So to make sure that we're planting in locations that work. I know we have development potentially happen on High Street, so we don't want to plant somewhere that might get ripped up in a few years. And we want to be, again, really strategic, methodical about where we put this money if we get it. Cool. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Administrative?
So it's just kind of in order that they are here. The Snowmobile Club, we just kind of do every year. I don't think they ever really put in a request. And Michelle and Tammy know the history of it. I don't. But we just budgeted, $1,500 again.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Are we in contact with anybody in the club?
We must be, because we sent them the money, so.
There's some mailing address at least.
We'll do, Michelle and Tammy might know the answer, but
Tammy definitely knows the
next
answer
piece,
to
we'll
it, yeah.
get that. Yeah, make sure they're cashes the checks.
Sadly, I wonder how active they are. These winters we're not having, how much snowmobiling's actually happening.
Yeah, I know the
in
Sunrise
Ellsworth.
Trail still gets a good amount of action, but I don't know, have usage numbers for it. Grassmobile.
Did they do maintenance? They replaced the sign when it blew down this year, and they just groomed the trail.
Yeah, usually the Snowmobile clubs do a lot of maintenance on the Sunrise Trail, so I wouldn't be surprised if they don't.
Is there an affiliation with ATV folks too, through them? Do they do both?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
We got a recreation director, they probably know.
What a good idea. Never thought
Get
of
that
it.
slide worked out as well.
Yeah, you know it's about slides.
Sorry, I'm done.
So then I guess if you don't have any answers, you have more questions, I don't have any more answers.
Anyone else want to talk about snowmobiles?
Just like to know what you do with the money, that would be handy.
Yeah, we should
They're
hear, we
listening.
should get some information from
Yeah,
them, just
I
to
mean,
hear from them.
yeah, a card, something.
If someone can figure out who that is.
We'll figure it out.
I know where they're at, physically.
You could find them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the next, I guess, chamber.
Gotta make snow first.
Ooh.
Not a bribe, just a guidebook.
There's no deals in it?
Nothing about snowmobiles, sorry.
Oh, we got trolleys though.
Thank you.
Say that's a gap we should fix.
It's got a nice,
She's got it, yeah.
it's got a nice feel to it.
Thank you.
You like it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
nice.
kind of scholastic.
Good evening. My name is Patricia P.J. Keenan. I'm the Executive Director of the Ellsworth Area Chamber of Commerce. I am only on day 334 of this job, so please be gentle this evening. I still have another month to say I'm new. Our mission at the Ellsworth Chamber is to encourage, promote, and support the growth and development of commerce, thereby enhancing the quality of life in our communities. You do all have our, okay, just making sure. You will notice that we did go up on our ask this year by $4,000, and that is something that our accountant and I tried really hard not to do. We went over our budgets for events and for different programs that we run in the city. But unfortunately, like everybody, we're feeling all of the increases of materials and different things. Like Eric, I do not trust myself to speak off the cuff. So I did write a brief statement just highlighting some of the things that the chamber has done this year. Our chamber serves not only as the bridge between commerce and the community, but also as an information and visitor center for guests passing through. As one of the limited places you can purchase a park pass before heading to Acadia, we are allotted the opportunity to encourage visitors to experience all that Ellsworth has to offer. From our award-winning restaurants and cafes to our unique shops, the Woodlawn Museum, the Down East Train, our many walking trails, Harbor Park, our beautiful downtown, and much more. We also provide information for locals seeking services, information, or shops, as well as connecting businesses and organizations. From May 1st to October 31st of last year, the Chamber saw over 9,000 people in our office. That doesn't include phone calls, emails, or off-site tutorials. This year, we have organized 12 business after hours, providing a space for the business community to meet, network, and celebrate the host business. 5 ribbon cuttings for new businesses in the city, with 2 more coming up this week. We hosted one of the most successful autumn golds to date, bringing many visitors to the city while providing a traditional celebration for locals that will celebrate its 40th anniversary this fall. It all started with a car show, and this year was joined by a children's carnival and boat rides on the harbor, a slew of events in the downtown parklet, including musical performances, cardio drumming, and a mutt strut, all surrounded by the Merchants' annual sidewalk sale. Musical performances and activities at Woodlawn, a concert at Timberland Acres Campground, many business events and sales throughout the city, and because our staff of 3 doesn't value sleep, a golf tournament on Sunday morning. We were happy to do our part with the many hands-on deck Ellsworth Christmas Parade this past December. With Kim Fitch at the helm, it was bound to be a success. I swear, Kim, that's really in here. I didn't know you were going to be here. This past year, we nurtured an ongoing relationship with Hancock County Technical Center. We were thrilled to connect businesses with HCTC for their student intern program and for guest panels at the school. We look forward to partnering with HCTC on some upcoming projects for the 2024 to 25 school year. We hosted 2 student interns at the Chamber, one from HCTC and one from Ellsworth High School. We partnered with the city's Economic Development Director to bring the Harold Alphonse Center for the Advancement of Maine's Workforce to the businesses and nonprofits of Ellsworth. We are still working on making sure all businesses are aware of this opportunity and have included it in our membership packet for new businesses. We have also included a section this year in our weekly newsletter that goes out to the business community for the city of Ellsworth. We've been working with Mara and Jana for any information that they want to get out to the business community. We are delighted to share our space with local organizations. Our office was and will be again this year the hub for the YMCA's Memorial Mile, the Kids Peace Angel Tree, a spot to buy tickets for the Ellsworth Lions Lioness Club Father-Daughter Dance, and the annual Ellsworth Rotary Pancake Breakfast. Our Leadership Hancock County program is going strong in its 13th year with 15 participants. We have one more class next month and graduation at Woodlawn on May 23rd. The 2024 Regional Guidebook has arrived with the city's beautiful Harbor Park gracing the cover. Distribution started today. I have about 1,400 of these books in my car right now if anyone needs one. Our annual dinner and awards night, which is currently the biggest event in Ellsworth, will be happening next week at the YMCA outside under an amazing Wallace Events tent. We have 400 registered guests who are excited to celebrate the city of Ellsworth, the Chamber of Commerce, and the businesses that make our community who we are. Did you have any questions for me about?
This sheet that we were handed this evening has the same budget request throughout the last 5 years of 10,000, but you're saying it went up by 4.
It's 14. There is an error at the bottom of that because there were 2 spots where we had 10,000 and I only changed one of them by mistake. Which I caught when I printed out for myself this evening. Good, that's why you're not supposed to do this stuff at 10 at night.
Sorry, excuse me. So I'm just looking, so the 14,000 you're requesting goes towards the public relations and marketing? Is that how you're focusing?
Part of it does, yes.
Yeah.
So it goes towards, if you look a little bit further, we have the public relations and marketing, which is sort of everything together. But, and then it breaks it down by each thing, like the guidebook, Autumn Gold, Christmas in Ellsworth, which we do the marketing for, and then some of the expenses in our office as the visitor center and information center for Ellsworth.
Is your total asking 18,000?
Our total ask is 14.
Okay.
If you want to give us 18, though, we would take it, and we would find a really good use for it, I promise. I'm sorry, it does look confusing.
How many businesses are currently members?
506 as of this afternoon.
Whoa.
We had a new member that joined today, so. And I will be, just to be completely honest with you, that is not just Ellsworth. That is Hancock County and a little bit outside of Hancock County. But mostly.
Ellsworth area.
It's the Ellsworth area. We do feel that this is something we've really been working on at the Chamber this year, is to build community relationships, because it really helps foster those people coming into Ellsworth and feeling really comfortable coming to Ellsworth, and we'd rather have them use our city as their hub for shopping and groceries and activities than go to other cities in the area.
How does the chamber celebrate Bastille Day?
That's the list of events that people have given us, so.
Where's this Bastille
Very
Day?
carefully. We do it very carefully.
In Castine, we do a picnic en blanc.
Right.
Highly, highly recommend that one.
Okay.
Not to take people away from Ellsworth, but.
And the reason Harbor Park is on the cover this year is because Adam reached out to me about ways that we could help promote Harbor Park. And I was like, let's start out by putting them on the cover of the guidebook, because everyone always asks us where the cover, they're like, where's that? So we can say, that's Harbor Park, it's right in Ellsworth, here you go.
It's gonna be really excited about summer.
Doesn't it? I know. I was so happy when we opened the boxes today. I was like, phew.
It's exciting to hear of all the different sort of hub work you do with different organizations in the city as well, like working with Jana, because you have such a repository of information on businesses,
Right.
and growth and everything. And, you know, she's always working on business development plans, and I'm sure you're working
Yes.
together on that. So
We
that's-
do, yes, we do. Yeah, she's very good too about letting us know when new businesses are coming and whatnot. What can we do? How can we help them? What's going on? And she's been wonderful to work with. And as a new person coming in, sort of getting thrown in the deep end of the pool, she's been amazing to have helping us with that type of stuff. But we're hoping to do some exciting programs and partnering with the library too on using their space to get people in there and remembering that we have this gorgeous library in the city to use. So. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Friends in action.
Is there someone to present for that?
Doesn't look like it. No, I don't think so. No, they turned in a request though, so I would just read what they've written.
I guess read what's in your packet. There's probably a reason this didn't go under social services, but I don't remember what it is.
It is marked as a social service, so.
Also reminded them to come to
Next
next meeting with the social services, so.
This is
I
an
may-
oversight on Matt's part. Should be next,
One of it,
at the
yeah.
next meeting, not at the recreation one. So we'll set that one aside.
So we'll just set it aside
Yeah.
and.
Okay, they're coming to next
Yeah.
meeting, okay, good.
They'll come to the social service one.
They're an important organization.
So then Heart of Ellsworth?
Yep.
Good evening. My name is Cara Romano. I'm the director of Heart of Ellsworth. Earlier today, I dropped off a 2023 annual report. I just want to make sure, does everyone have one?
I do not.
You do not?
I was late, though, it's my fault. It's Nate's fault.
Which Nate? Nothing else.
Nate, do you have one for Charlie, please? I'm not gonna share, it's very pretty. Awesome.
Thanks, Nancy.
It's mine.
I just want to thank you all for your time and your dedication to our city, serving as elected officials, especially this time of year during budget season. We are here this evening seeking annual appropriations to support Heart of Ellsworth for fiscal year 2025. As a little bit of an overview about Heart of Ellsworth, we promote artistic, economic, educational, environmental, cultural, and historic activities in the downtown area of the city of Ellsworth, Maine, to provide a vibrant community for all residents, businesses, nonprofits, and local government. And so we are also an affiliate community of the Maine Downtown Center and National Main Street Organization. Most of you do know, but just for some of you who are new to our city, Heart of Ellsworth began in 2016 after two area businesses, Eaton Peabody and Camden National Bank, partnered with Maine Community Foundation and the city of Ellsworth to support the Downtown Ellsworth Association. They gifted the organization resources to hire their first ever executive director. At the time, I'm kind of just going to speed through the history a little bit, but at the time, Main Street storefronts were at 50% capacity, and we worked with the City of Ellsworth Economic Development Director, at the time Mickey Sumter, and the Ellsworth Area Chamber of Commerce, at that time Executive Director Gretchen Wilson, and area building and business owners to fill the shops over the course of the next few years. Over the next 8 years, we've worked with city staff, community members, business owners, area nonprofits, and statewide partners to grow the organization, our organization, Heart of Ellsworth, to help bolster the downtown to become what it is today, a bustling downtown community with lots of energy and excitement. In those 8 years, our organization has accomplished many great things for the city of Ellsworth and its residents. A community mural on Water Street highlighting Ellsworth's history, completing a 2-time statewide award-winning asset mapping project manifesting Maine, and becoming an affiliate community of the Main Street America and Maine Downtown Center in 2020. We've also hosted an annual Meet the Candidates event, providing a nonpartisan platform for residents to engage with folks running for Ellsworth City Council. And we've established an annual downtown grants program for area entrepreneurs and small business owners. And we've also organized and engaged volunteers annually to see all of these projects and more to fruition. Today, we are a sustainable nonprofit supporting the downtown district with an annual operating budget of more than $188,000. We started out with $20,000 over the course of 2 years, so we've grown the organization to, like I said, a $188,000 annual budget. Our funding sources, since our inception in 2016, we've raised more than $800,000 in investment through grants, sponsorship, annual appeals, and community donations to bolster the downtown district. With the support of the City of Ellsworth, the Maine Downtown Center, and Main Street America, and other area partners, we are looking forward to our best year yet in 2024. If you turn to the last page of the annual report, you'll see that 49% of our budget last year was comprised of grants. So our staff and independent contractors are very astute to staying in the loop of when grants are available, knowing when it is that they are the right fit for a project here in Ellsworth, writing and submitting, and then also, of course, all of the tracking and then end reports that need to go out. We have, to date, never returned any grant dollars, and we've always used them and appropriately. Some of our 2024 work directives include Main Street America designation, which we're working on with many community members. We put together an organization or a group of folks, including downtown business owners. We have a counselor, Counselor Michelle is on our committee, as well as the Chamber of Commerce, and then other downtown businesses and area volunteers. We are continuing to partner with the Economic Development Department and the Chamber of Commerce to support area entrepreneurs. We're working on historic preservation, education, and designation of the downtown district. And of course, events drawing folks to the downtown and supporting the Franklin Street Parklet and the and to market the district sort of cohesively. And of course, there's more initiatives, too many to sort of outline tonight. But our community impact in 2023 alone, we engaged more than 97 volunteers who logged more than 1,400 hours of volunteer time on behalf of the city. Now in 2024, we have all 4 of our committees built out, which the committees are outlined in the annual report that you have in front of you. I can't remember which page, but they're in there, the 4 points. And now in 2024, we have all of those committees built out, and they're all functioning, and we have appointed committee chairs and we have a full board of directors. Most communities that are in the middle of their Main Street America application do not have all of their committees built out or a full functioning board of directors, let alone 2 staff people. So Ellsworth is leading the charge in a very, very sustainable way and starting out this next chapter of our organization's history in a very solid and sustainable way. In 2022 and 2023 combined, we brought in over $260,000 in grant funding for the cities and other community organizations and businesses here in the downtown. And we dispersed a total of $26,000 to Ellsworth entrepreneurs and small business owners. We come before you tonight requesting funding from the City of Ellsworth to support small business programs, beautification efforts, community events that bring folks downtown, and then this year we're asking for a one-time support from the city to support the Main Street America designation that we're in the middle of applying for right now. That should be done hopefully in November. And I'm happy to break that down, but I think there's a breakout in one of the letters that we sent in with our packet. In the city's recent business attraction plan presented and then the comprehensive plan process, they both have emphasized the importance of strengthening and promoting Ellsworth's unique identity to attract and retain businesses and residents. Because of our grassroots structure, Heart of Ellsworth can support these goals in ways that complement the city's current approach. We organize volunteers, host community events, execute tourism marketing campaigns through the Maine Office of Tourism, and we deliver direct support to the businesses while writing grants and bring private philanthropic investment to support our local community and our heritage. Our work enhances Ellsworth's character, making our community a place where residents and business owners envision a vibrant future, and we bring pride to the community as well. As we move forward with city support is vital for us, and making sure that we're on the same page as the city. In the other 10 downtown organizations around the state, and the more than 2,000 around the country, municipality support is the backbone of any organization's success. The Main Street model is a more than 40-year-old tried and true economic and community development model known as the Main Street four-point approach. It provides structure and stability to all subscribing Main Street communities. Public and private collaborative partnerships is key to us leveraging the resources to move Ellsworth forward. In conclusion, we are excited for the year ahead and really looking forward to continuing our partnership with the City of Ellsworth through placemaking projects such as beautification, historic preservation, community events, and supporting area entrepreneurs. On behalf of the Heart of Ellsworth Board and staff, I wish to express our gratitude to each of you for your service and continuing in considering our funding request. We are committed to collaboration and partnership with city staff, area nonprofits, elected officials, volunteers, and community members, and I'm happy to take any questions or thoughts that the council or city staff has at this time.
I have a thought and a question, or a question first, I guess. I remember the presentation about becoming a Main Street, about the different designations, and I know your ask is bigger this year. You said it's like a one-time thing so that we can get this next level up designation, but can you just remind us?
Sure, so a portion of it is a one-time ask. So yes, in the past, the city of Ellsworth has supported us. I think the most that we've ever received has been $8,250. Yes, we are asking for $57,000 this year, but when you look at the city's initial investment and then the return on investment over the course of the past 8 years, this $57,000 is actually bringing us up to the statewide national average, the statewide average of what other municipalities support their downtown organizations to the tune of. So as a sort of a general sort of spectrum, some cities or towns in Maine support to the tune of 20, and then the highest, which I believe is Biddeford, is $110,000. So our ask is small business programming is $25,000. Beautification efforts are 15. Community events that bring folks downtown was 12, and then this year the one-time support of the Main Street America designation is $5,000.
Can you just say those four
Sure.
one more time?
So, and if I can just interrupt, we don't have any of the details that you've talked about. I've gone through the packet 3 or 4 times. I've got the 57, I've got annual reports. I don't have the breakdown of the 57,000.
It's in the letter that we submitted to the city, which is
I think it broke off.
this letter, and it broke out. It's highlighted, so I don't know if that will help or not, but that's the budget.
That's
It's
what
not
I
in the
don't
packet.
have it.
Oh, well, I don't know why.
We'll get you a copy. I can-
Yeah,
I can
and
grab
we
a
can
copy
just,
right now.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, we can also send it out.
just know that it's coming later. But if you could say the 57,000 slower, then.
Sure.
Just say those things one more time.
I'm sorry.
It's rude to keep going through papers while you're talking, but I couldn't find what you were
No,
talking about.
I don't understand why you folks don't have, we
This
sent a
is
whole
not-
packet. Does this
We-
thing look
We
familiar?
have the email with the packet attachments on it, but
Okay,
not all of
just
them
not
are
printed
included
out.
separately, printed out.
Oh,
We have
okay.
your
We also
budget.
sent you our work plan. I mean, we actually this year sent you folks more documents than we've ever sent you, and maybe that's why you don't have it. Sorry about that.
If it's, I dropped the. it didn't
Maybe
drop
you
the
could just
computer, I
email
should've.
email those.
Or
But if you could
we
just
got
say
it
those
already.
four
Yeah,
things.
talk through the.
Sure. The breakdown is $25,000 for small business support, $15,000 for beautification, $12,000 for community events, and then a one-time of $5,000 for our Main Street America application.
Charlie, you said you're gonna have a conversation about beautification is popping up in different places.
Yeah, we had
Make sure it's
we
coordinated.
talked about it at Finance Committee a little bit last week, and we got a new, I guess you could say that, we got a new, we outlined what was done last year and what's gonna be redone per the current contract. There were some additional places that were left undone, that we discussed as a big group. I think we're gonna put that piece out to bid on kind of those extra areas of the island. We're gonna move forward on what was already contracted with the current vendor. And then there's some other areas that I kind of wanna start talking to council and others on, hey, this is how much we've saved over the last few years in budget by going with, a much more of like a maintenance 3-year cycle as opposed to 50,000 each year. We're basically spending 14,000 a year. Now that means that it's not all happening at once. So if we'd like to apply some additional, maybe it's to this, maybe it's additional kind of flower budget that we could work for volunteers, and maybe it's, once I RFP this, maybe it's an additional kind of add throughout the summer on kind of the additional islands and places that didn't get done last year as part of the original contract. So, plus I think, and Cara was there, and the rest of the team was here, I think, when Janet gets back. Stuff we talked about, the mapping of these different areas, and now we know what Ellsworth is doing and what Arbor Commission and kind of what everybody, the Harbor, Adam, they do all the kind of their own thing there, and the Parklet, and really kind of thinking of those. To me, this is some really high value stuff, just because of how visible it is at the price point that you get that for. It feels like a really good investment. So.
Yep. So I want to toss you a softball. Can you talk about the interplay between the Main Street organization and the Chamber of Commerce, and why Ellsworth needs both?
Oh, gosh.
And I am softballing, I'm not challenging that.
No,
I fully endorse both organizations and want to give you a chance to talk about why we have both here in town.
I would say that, first of all, just to sort of as a general response, most cities of our size and larger do have both. You need sort of both to function. So the chamber, as you probably all well know, is organized as a 501c6. So they are not really able to write grant applications or to do sort of private financing for city projects. And we are organized as a C3. When I was first initially hired back in 2016, we actually transferred the Downtown Ellsworth Association away from being a C6 that was also at the time a membership organization, and we transferred our structure, our financial structure, to become a 501c3. So the first year we spent doing all of this work with the IRS and our accountant and our bookkeeper and treasurer at the time. And we also, at that time too, we did away with our membership organizational structure because we were just running around downtown all the time looking for money. And it just didn't make sense. We were technically, financially in competition with the Ellsworth Area Chamber of Commerce. And so we decided to bow out of that structure because they are an established entity here in the city. And so we decided that we could move forward with sort of leaning more on grants, leaning more on appeals, leaning more on sponsorships, and all of those things that make up nonprofit budgets. I still, to this day, personally, I guess you're asking me a question off the cuff, so I'm answering it with
Yes, I did not
my
give you a
hat,
heads up on
yeah,
this.
which is fine, but I just am answering this without sort of the board sort of behind me whispering. But I think I can speak for the board to say that both organizations need to work in tandem to make sure that the economic health, along too with the City of Ellsworth's Economic Development Department, planning, all of the different departments, we all need to sort of be working together to make the most of all of these different resources and to leverage and collaborate and to sort of move forward. So I think it's really important for a city of this size that has sort of this built environment and this downtown corridor that is also historic, to make sure that there is somebody that sort of gets up, or a staff of however many and board of however many, get up every day to make sure that this spot here in our downtown is functioning and moving, and that people are thinking about it every day. The chamber, as PJ got up and said, they're very involved in the things. Actually, just today I was on the phone with PJ, working through all of our presentation, making sure that we were sort of lock in step. And I just think the partnership is really important, and with a city our size, it's really important that we take advantage of all of the structures out there that exist. Does that answer?
That's a great answer. And do you want to talk about what's happening at 10 o'clock Saturday morning?
But can I actually just
Yeah.
dovetail onto what you just said
Sure.
before you go on about what's happening on Saturday, which is the comment that I was gonna make, which is that when I came on in 2021, there always seemed like this friction between Heart of Ellsworth, the Chamber, and the city. And it just feels like over the last couple of years, that's really dissolved, and the vibe is so much more collaborative between the three entities, and they all have their role to play, and I just really appreciate that. It just feels like we're all moving in the same direction now.
I would agree. And I'm greatly, it affects my personal day-to-day operations of how we work as staff and as a board, and we're grateful for the steps that we've come as a community to be collaborative and to be working together. One entity that we partner a lot with now is also the Ellsworth Public Library. We do a lot of programming with them and a lot of grant writing with them. And it's really nice that we're able to support them in different projects because a lot of the work that we're doing is sort of down in the same area.
What's happening at 10?
What's that?
What's happening at 10 on?
Oh, it's the other half of Jane's Walk. We have a local resident, not necessarily of Ellsworth, but a local resident who is a certified forest bather who is taking a group of pre-registered folks down on the Riverwalk to do a forest bathing session that is ending with a ceremonial tea. It's a little hoo-hooey, but I will tell you, what I will tell you is that Zabette New Collins, our new program manager, and I, a couple of months ago, Chef Earnhardt, who is a donor here in downtown and sort of a local philanthropist, if you will, Shep is now a certified forest bather. And so he took us out and said, do you think that this is something that would, I said, it's a totally different demographic that we would be attracting. So I don't know if we're sold out on it yet.
You guys want to join?
So that will be happening at 10 down on the Riverwalk.
On when you're forest bathing?
Yes, that is a great question. Yes, yes, you
But
do.
I mean, it's, the concept is put your phone away.
Yeah.
Sit, be there. I mean, it really is wonderful. And it's a nice balance to life and death in Ellsworth at 3 o'clock.
Yes, it is actually a really great, great balance to
I think it's
that.
got like a weird translation from the Japanese too, where it seems a little strange in America, but
Forest bathing?
yeah, like they do, that's kind of where it comes from.
Yeah.
That's the tea and whatnot, but
Yeah.
it's also called hiking.
But without the purpose,
It has another
Yeah.
name. Just as one clarifying question before I leave the podium, does council want me to forward on our entire packet that we submitted this year to, or are you looking for?
Or, did you say, John, it's in the PDF?
No, I would
It
forward.
looked like it was,
We'll circle up and we'll,
Okay.
Carl, we'll get
Just
them the
wanted
packet
clarity.
with
Thank you, folks.
those pieces.
Great, thanks.
Thanks.
Is the Harbor Commission not on tonight?
No, they're in the Public Works.
Yeah,
Oh.
Adam presented.
Oh, that's right.
Their budget is Public
You
Works.
don't
Harbor
remember?
budget.
I just feel like I didn't hear anybody talk about pylons yet. So I feel like I missed
And the
something.
bubblers, the duck bubblers?
And the duck
Prevent
feel like I missed
freezing
something.
around the docks, the air.
Is that the whole?
That's it,
Yeah.
just shebang. Adam was there for the beautification meeting,
Yeah.
and Jim as well. It's really interesting how many different people have pieces of it.
Well, and I
There's
love
so
that
much-
you're gonna just, can we look at them all at once?
My
Talking about beautification.
my sort of manager's prerogative.
I think we're all done. Thank you so much.
Waiting for the.
I want to